The Xenian Exchange Program Captain Marcus Chen stared at the official documents spread across his desk, aboard the Earth Alliance vessel Meridian. The Xenian Exchange Program had seemed like humanity's greatest diplomatic achievement when it was announced 6 months ago. First contact with an advanced alien civilization, peaceful negotiations, and now cultural exchange students living among both species. What the documents didn't mention was how complicated things would become when your assigned Xenian exchange partner was a 7-foot-tall warrior princess who apparently had very different ideas about personal space than humans did. "Sir, the Xenian shuttle is requesting permission to dock," came the voice of Lieutenant Rodriguez through the comm system. Marcus straightened his uniform and headed to the docking bay. The Meridian was one of Earth's newest exploration vessels, equipped with the latest technology and staffed by humanity's best and brightest. As the ship's captain, Marcus had volunteered to participate in the exchange program, thinking it would be a simple matter of showing an alien dignitary around human space for a few weeks. The shuttle that emerged from the swirling blue portal of the jump gate was unlike anything in human design. It moved with fluid grace, its surface seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. When it settled into the docking clamps, Marcus could hear the faint humming that all Xenian technology seemed to produce. The airlock cycled, and steam hissed as the atmospheric systems equalized. Marcus had studied everything Earth scientists knew about Xenian biology and culture, but seeing one in person was still breathtaking. She emerged from the shuttle with the predatory grace of a born warrior. Her skin was a pale blue-gray that seemed to shimmer in the artificial light, and her silver hair was bound in intricate braids that spoke of high rank among her people. Most striking were her eyes, completely black like staring into deep space, but somehow warm rather than cold. "Captain Chen," she said, her voice carrying a musical quality that the translation devices couldn't quite capture. "I am Zarathus of the 7th House, guardian of the Northern Reaches." She paused, studying him with those dark eyes. "You may call me Zara." Marcus stepped forward, offering the formal greeting he'd practiced. "Welcome aboard the Meridian, Guardian Zara. I'm honored to serve as your guide during your stay in human space." Zara tilted her head, a gesture that seemed curious rather than threatening, despite the razor-sharp teeth visible when she smiled. "Your species is smaller than I expected. The reports described humans as fierce warriors who had achieved spaceflight through conquest and determination. You seem rather," she searched for the word, "soft." Several of Marcus's crew members shifted uncomfortably. Humanity had indeed fought their way to the stars, but they'd also learned diplomacy and cooperation along the way. The Xenians, from what Earth's diplomats understood, still lived in a culture where strength determined status. "We've learned that there are many different kinds of strength," Marcus replied carefully. "Perhaps during your stay you'll see what makes humanity unique among the species we've encountered." Zara's smile widened, showing more of those predatory teeth. "I look forward to learning about human strength. Your sleeping arrangements, I assume you've prepared quarters appropriate for a warrior of my standing?" Marcus gestured toward the corridor leading to the guest quarters. "We've modified one of our VIP suites to accommodate Xenian environmental preferences. Temperature controls, atmospheric adjustments, even furniture sized for your physiology." As they walked through the ship's corridors, Marcus couldn't help but notice how the crew reacted to Zara's presence. Some stared in fascination, others stepped aside respectfully, and a few of the younger officers seemed almost intimidated by her imposing figure. Zara, for her part, examined everything with keen interest, occasionally asking questions about human technology or ship design. "Your vessel is quaint," she said as they passed through the main corridor. "Efficient, but lacking the organic integration we prefer. How do you commune with your ship's spirit?" "Ship's spirit?" Marcus paused. "We don't. Our ships are machines, tools. We operate them through control systems and computer interfaces." Zara stopped walking entirely, turning to face him with what looked like genuine surprise. "You build vessels without consciousness? How do they know where you wish to go? How do they protect themselves and you from the dangers of the void?" This was one of the cultural differences the briefing materials had mentioned. Xenian technology was somehow alive, grown rather than built, capable of independent thought and decision-making. Human technology, by comparison, was purely mechanical. "We program navigation computers with our destinations," Marcus explained. Our defensive systems are automated but controlled by the crew. It's a different approach. Fascinating, Zara murmured, running one clawed finger along the wall as they walked. Your species commands dead matter to serve living will. No wonder you've survived so long. Such determination, such absolute control over your environment. They reached the guest quarters, and Marcus activated the door controls. The room beyond had been carefully prepared. Larger furniture, atmospheric settings adjusted for Xenian comfort, even decorative elements that the cultural attachés thought would feel familiar to their guest. Zara entered and examined the space thoroughly, testing the structural integrity of the bed, checking the view from the windows, even sniffing the air to analyze the atmospheric mixture. After several minutes, she turned back to Marcus with what he was beginning to recognize as approval. "This will suffice," she announced. "Your hospitality honors both our species. Now, when do we begin the strength trials?" "Strength trials?" Marcus felt a sinking sensation in his stomach. Of course, how else am I to properly evaluate human capabilities? The exchange program documentation specified that I would be observing human warrior culture and combat effectiveness. I assume you've prepared appropriate challenges? Marcus realized there had been a significant miscommunication somewhere in the diplomatic process. The human understanding of the exchange program focused on cultural sharing, scientific cooperation, and peaceful demonstration of human achievements. The Xenian understanding apparently involved testing humanity's worthiness through combat. We had planned to show you our scientific facilities, cultural centers, maybe some historical sites, Marcus said carefully. Zara's expression shifted to something that might have been confusion or disappointment. You would show me your territories without first proving your right to hold them? How strange. Among my people, strength must be demonstrated before trust can be established. As Marcus tried to figure out how to explain human diplomatic customs to a warrior culture, he couldn't shake the feeling that this cultural exchange was going to be far more complicated than anyone had anticipated. And he definitely hadn't expected to be personally responsible for representing all of humanity's warrior strength to a 7-foot-tall alien who could probably snap him in half without effort. The next few weeks were going to be very interesting indeed. Understanding human strength. The first real test came 3 days into Zara's stay aboard the Meridian. Marcus had spent those days trying to show her various aspects of human civilization, the hydroponics labs, the engineering sections, the cultural database, but he could sense her growing restlessness. She was polite but clearly unimpressed by what she saw as mundane activities. Everything changed when they responded to a distress call. The merchant vessel Lucky Strike had suffered a catastrophic engine failure in the asteroid belt of the Kepler 442 system, with life support failing and their ship drifting toward a collision with a massive asteroid. The crew of 12 was facing certain death unless someone could reach them in time. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from the bridge, "the Lucky Strike is approximately 4 hours from impact. Their engines are completely dead, and they don't have enough thruster fuel to alter course significantly." Marcus studied the tactical display. The asteroid field was dense, the merchant ship was tumbling out of control, and any rescue attempt would require precise navigation through extremely dangerous space. Worse, the failing life support meant they had maybe 6 hours before the crew succumbed to carbon dioxide poisoning. "Sir," Commander Walsh, his first officer, approached quietly. "This is going to be incredibly risky. We'd have to take the Meridian through that asteroid field at high speed, match velocity with a tumbling ship, and somehow extract 12 people in hostile conditions. The odds of success are irrelevant," Marcus finished. "Prep the rescue shuttles. All volunteers only. I won't order anyone into this." What happened next surprised him. Every single crew member on duty volunteered. Within minutes, the entire ship was mobilizing for a rescue operation that could easily result in their own destruction. Zara watched all of this with intense interest. "You would risk your vessel and crew for strangers?" she asked as they prepared to enter the asteroid field. "Of course," Marcus replied, not really understanding why she was asking. "They're in trouble. We help, even though they can offer you nothing in return. Even though saving them gains you no territory, no resources, no strategic advantage." Marcus paused in his pre-flight checks. "They're people. That's enough." For the first time since arriving, Zara looked genuinely puzzled. Among her people, apparently, such selfless acts were not common. The rescue mission that followed became the stuff of legend among both species. Commander Sarah Kim piloted the rescue shuttle with a skill that bordered on supernatural, threading the needle between tumbling asteroids while matching the complex rotation of the damaged merchant vessel. When the docking clamps couldn't achieve a proper seal due to the ship's erratic movement, Chief Engineer Paulo Santos manually welded the shuttles together while hanging in space, working in a full EVA suit as chunks of asteroid debris whizzed past his helmet. Dr. Emily Foster and her medical team managed to treat 3 crew members who were already unconscious from oxygen deprivation, working in zero gravity while the ship spun through space. When it became clear that 12 people couldn't fit safely in the rescue shuttle, 5 Meridian crew members volunteered to stay behind and wait for a second trip, even though the asteroid impact was now less than 2 hours away. But it was Marcus himself who made the strongest impression on Zara. When the merchant ship's captain, a grizzled veteran named Pete Morrison, refused to abandon his vessel. "She's been good to me for 30 years. I won't leave her to die alone." Marcus didn't argue or threaten. Instead, he quietly handed his own emergency oxygen supply to Morrison and said, "Then we'll make sure she gets the send-off she deserves." Together, they spent precious minutes downloading the ship's logs, securing personal items that the crew couldn't bear to lose, and even recording a message from Morrison to be transmitted to the ship's original builders. Marcus treated the dying vessel with the same respect he'd show a fallen comrade. They escaped the asteroid field with less than 20 minutes to spare. As they watched the Lucky Strike finally succumb to the asteroid impact in a brief, bright flash, Morrison was quietly weeping for his lost ship, while Marcus's crew gave the merchant spacers their own emergency rations and spare clothing. "Your species is remarkable," Zara said later, as they watched the rescued crew members sharing stories and laughter in the mess hall. "You risked everything for people you'd never met. You showed respect for a dying machine as if it were a living being. You shared your resources without thought of compensation." Marcus shrugged. "It's what anyone would do." "No," Zara said firmly. "It is not. Among my people, such actions would be seen as weakness. Resources are finite, risks must be calculated, and sentiment toward machines is foolish." She paused, watching Dr. Foster check on one of the rescued crew members who was still recovering. "Yet I have never seen displays of such precise skill under pressure. Your shuttle pilot performed maneuvers that would challenge our best warriors. Your engineer worked in conditions that would terrify most of my people. Your medical staff saved lives that seemed beyond saving." She turned to face Marcus directly. "You spoke of different kinds of strength. I begin to understand what you meant." That night, as Marcus completed his duty reports, he found himself thinking about the cultural exchange program differently. Maybe the point wasn't just to show each species how the other lived. Maybe it was to help both sides understand that strength could take many forms. The Xenians were warriors bred for conquest and individual prowess. Humans had learned to be something different, cooperative, adaptable, willing to sacrifice for others. Both approaches had allowed their respective species to reach the stars, but through very different paths. As he prepared for sleep, Marcus wondered what other revelations the next few weeks would bring. The rescue mission had clearly changed how Zara viewed humanity, but he suspected their cultural exchange was far from over. He had no idea how right he was, or how personal things were about to become. The warrior's respect. The weeks following the rescue mission brought a significant change in Zara's behavior. She began asking different questions, observing human interactions with new intensity, and participating in crew activities rather than simply watching from the sidelines. Marcus first noticed the shift during the weekly strategy briefing. The Meridian was investigating reports of unusual energy readings in the Vega system, and as was standard protocol, Marcus included all senior staff in mission planning. He'd invited Zara to observe, thinking it would give her insight into human military organization. What he hadn't expected was for her to contribute. "The energy pattern you've detected," she said, studying the sensor data with those dark eyes. "Among my people, such signatures indicate the presence of devourers." The briefing room fell silent. Commander Walsh leaned forward. "Devourers?" Zara's expression grew serious, more grave than Marcus had ever seen her. "Ancient machines left behind by a species that died out long before either of our peoples reached the stars. They consume matter and energy indiscriminately, growing larger and more dangerous with each feeding. If they have awakened in this system, how dangerous are we talking? Marcus asked. A single devourer destroyed 3 of our colony worlds before we learned how to fight them effectively, Zara replied. They adapt to whatever weapons you use against them, learn from each attack, become stronger. The only way to defeat them is through tactics they cannot predict or adapt to quickly enough. Dr. Foster, the ship's science officer, pulled up additional sensor readings. These energy signatures, they're definitely artificial, but unlike anything in our databases. If what you're saying is true, Guardian Zara, then we might be facing something that could threaten not just our ship but Earth itself if it spreads. Marcus felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. First contact protocols suggested withdrawing and requesting backup from Earth fleet. But if Zara was right about these devourers, waiting for reinforcements might mean giving the entity time to grow stronger. What tactics worked for your people? He asked Zara. Coordinated sacrifice, she replied grimly. Warriors would deliberately allow themselves to be consumed while transmitting detailed sensor data about the devourer's internal structure. Others would use those readings to target weak points with precision strikes. Many died to learn how to kill even one. The room fell quiet again. The idea of deliberately sacrificing crew members was antithetical to everything humans believed about warfare and exploration. There has to be another way, Marcus said firmly. Humans don't willingly sacrifice our people. We find alternatives. Zara studied him with what might have been curiosity or skepticism. And if no alternatives exist, if the choice is between sacrificing a few to save many or losing everything, then we find a third option, Commander Walsh interjected. That's what humans do. We refuse to accept unwinnable scenarios. Over the next several hours, Marcus watched his crew work with an intensity and creativity that even impressed him. Dr. Foster and her science team analyzed every piece of data about devourer technology that Zara could provide. Chief Santos and the engineering crew began modifying sensor arrays and weapons systems based on Xenian tactical knowledge. Lieutenant Rodriguez coordinated with the navigation team to plot approach vectors that would minimize the entity's ability to adapt to their presence. Most remarkably, they did it all as a team. No heroic individuals making solo decisions. No commanders ordering subordinates into certain death. Every plan was discussed, every risk was shared, every crew member had input into the final strategy. Zara observed all of this with growing amazement. Your people work as a single organism, she commented to Marcus as they watched the engineering teams install modified targeting systems. Among my people, warriors compete for the honor of facing the greatest threats alone. You share both danger and glory equally. We're stronger together, Marcus replied simply. One person might have a brilliant idea, but it takes a team to make it work. The plan they developed was typically human in its audacious complexity. Instead of attacking the devourer directly, they would use the Meridian's deflector array to create a series of gravitational anomalies around the entity. The artificial gravity fields would confuse its adaptive systems, while simultaneously compressing space-time in specific patterns. The theory was that if they could create enough gravitational distortion, they could force the devourer into a pocket dimension, essentially trapping it in a space where it couldn't affect the normal universe while being unable to escape or adapt. It was dangerous, untested, and required split-second timing from every department on the ship. It was also completely unlike anything the devourers had encountered before, which gave them their best chance of success. When they finally encountered the entity in the outer reaches of the Vega system, Marcus understood why Zara's people had resorted to sacrifice tactics. The devourer was a shifting mass of dark energy and twisted metal, easily the size of a small moon. It moved through space with predatory intelligence, and sensor readings showed it was already adapting to their presence, analyzing their ship's energy signatures and defensive capabilities. All stations report ready, Commander Walsh announced. Marcus looked around the bridge at his crew, humans who had volunteered to risk their lives to stop a threat they'd never encountered before, using tactics that might not work, all to protect people they'd never met on worlds they'd never visited. Guardian Zara, he said, we could use any additional insights you might have. Zara moved to stand beside his command chair, her imposing figure somehow reassuring rather than intimidating. Your plan is unlike anything my people would attempt. The risk of dimensional breach, the complexity of the gravitational calculations, the coordination required. She paused, watching the Devourer turn toward their ship. Among my people, we would call such a plan impossible. Good thing we're not your people, Marcus replied with a slight smile. Indeed, Zara said, and for the first time since arriving, she sounded genuinely impressed. Execute your impossible plan, Captain. I am honored to witness human strength in action. As the Meridian began its complex dance around the ancient horror, Marcus couldn't help but think that this was exactly the kind of scenario that separated humanity from other species. Not their willingness to fight, but their refusal to accept that any problem was truly unsolvable. The real test was just beginning. The battle that changed everything, the gravitational trap, worked better than anyone had dared hope. For 3 hours, the Meridian danced around the Devourer in an intricate pattern that would have been impossible without the precise coordination of every crew member. Lieutenant Rodriguez executed navigation calculations that pushed the ship's maneuvering systems to their absolute limits. Chief Santos kept the deflector arrays operating at 110% capacity, far beyond their design specifications. Dr. Foster monitored dimensional stability while feeding real-time adjustments to the tactical team. And through it all, Marcus watched Zara's reaction to human ingenuity under pressure. The Xenian warrior stood motionless beside his command chair, her dark eyes taking in every detail of the operation. When the Devourer's energy tentacles lashed out at their ship, missing by mere meters because of split-second timing adjustments, she didn't flinch. When gravitational stress alarms screamed warnings about hull integrity, she remained calm. But Marcus could see something changing in her expression as the battle progressed. Gravitational pocket forming, Dr. Foster reported. The entity is beginning to phase out of normal spacetime. On the main screen, the Devourer writhed as reality bent around it. The ancient machine's adaptive systems were firing continuously, trying to counter the gravitational distortions, but the complexity of the human plan was too much for even its advanced intelligence to process quickly enough. Phase 2, Marcus ordered. Initiate dimensional compression. This was the most dangerous part. They had to maintain the gravitational field while simultaneously compressing the pocket dimension until it sealed itself off from the normal universe. One miscalculation would either free the Devourer or tear a hole in spacetime that could destroy the entire system. Compression at 20%, engineering reported. Dimensional barriers holding steady, 50%. Minor fluctuations in Sector 7 compensating, 75%. The entity is fighting back. It's trying to expand the dimensional pocket. Marcus felt sweat beading on his forehead. This was the moment when Zara's people would have started sacrificing warriors to gather more data. Instead, his crew was working together to solve the problem in real time. Dr. Foster, can we reinforce the dimensional barriers? If we reroute power from life support, maybe, but that would give us maybe 10 minutes before. Do it, Marcus ordered. Chief Santos, I need everything the engines can give us. Sir, if I push the power systems any harder, we risk cascade failure. How long until dimensional compression is complete? 8 minutes, 17 seconds, Dr. Foster replied. Marcus looked around the bridge. Every face showed determination mixed with fear. They all understood the risks, but none of them suggested retreat. Guardian Zara, he said quietly, if this goes wrong, you'll need to use the escape pods to get back to your people. Tell them what happened here. Zara turned to look at him, and for the first time since they'd met, Marcus saw something like surprise in those dark eyes. You would sacrifice your ship to ensure the mission succeeds? If necessary, yes. And your crew agrees with this decision? Marcus didn't need to ask. He could see the answer in every face around him. We all agree. Zara was quiet for a long moment, watching the humans work with desperate efficiency to complete their impossible plan. Finally, she spoke. Among my people, such courage is honored with songs that last for generations. But we sing of individual warriors, not this. Perfect unity of purpose. Every person contributing their strength to a single goal, accepting equal risk, sharing equal glory. She paused, her gaze moving from station to station. We have no songs for this because we have never seen it before. Dimensional compression at 90%, Dr. Foster announced. The pocket is beginning to seal itself. The Devourer made one final, desperate attempt to break free. Energy lashed out in all directions, and the ship shook violently as gravitational waves washed over them. Sparks flew from overloaded systems, and several crew members were thrown from their stations. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. Damage control reported. Emergency bulkheads engaged. Life support failing, environmental announced. Oxygen will be critical in 6 minutes. Dimensional compression at 95%, Dr. Foster called out, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Almost there. Marcus gripped his command chair as another gravitational wave hit them. Around the bridge, his crew continued working despite the danger, despite the failing systems, despite the very real possibility that they might all die in the next few minutes. 98%. The dimensional pocket is nearly sealed. 99%. 100%. Dimensional seal complete. The ship suddenly went quiet. The gravitational alarm stopped screaming. The energy reading stabilized, and on the main screen, empty space showed where the Devourer had been just moments before. Confirm containment, Marcus ordered, not quite believing they'd succeeded. Confirmed. Sir? Dr. Foster replied, exhaustion clear in her voice. The entity is trapped in a self-contained pocket dimension. It can't affect our universe, and the dimensional barriers are stable. It should remain contained indefinitely. Cheers erupted throughout the bridge, and Marcus could hear similar celebrations echoing from the comm system as other departments reported in. They'd done it. They'd faced an ancient horror that had destroyed worlds, and they'd found a way to stop it without losing a single crew member. But Marcus found himself watching Zara's reaction more than celebrating with his crew. The Xenian warrior stood perfectly still, her dark eyes wide with something that might have been awe or revelation. She watched the humans congratulating each other, helping injured crew members, already beginning repairs on damaged systems, and her expression was unlike anything Marcus had seen from her before. Guardian Zara? He asked quietly. She turned to face him, and when she spoke, her voice carried a weight of emotion that the translation systems couldn't fully convey. Captain Marcus Chen, she said formally, I came here to evaluate human warrior capabilities. I expected to find either worthy adversaries or weak prey. She paused, looking around the bridge at the humans who were already back to work, treating their victory as simply another day's duty completed successfully. I found neither. I found something my people have never encountered before, a species that fights not for conquest or glory, but for others. A species that finds impossible solutions because the alternative is unacceptable. A species that, she searched for words the translator could handle, that wins through hope rather than fear. She stepped closer to Marcus, her towering frame somehow managing to convey respect rather than intimidation. My people call themselves warriors, but we are merely fighters, you. You are something far more dangerous than warriors. What's that? Marcus asked. Heroes, Zara replied simply. And I find myself, unexpectedly honored, to call you friends. As the Meridian began its journey back to human space, Marcus reflected on how much had changed in just a few weeks. They'd started with a simple cultural exchange and ended up forging the first true friendship between their species. But the most significant changes were yet to come. The night everything changed. The victory celebration lasted well into the ship's night cycle. Off-duty crew members filled the mess hall, sharing stories of the battle and raising improvised toasts to successful impossible plans. Marcus made his rounds, checking on the injured crew members in the medical bay and ensuring that repair teams had everything they needed to restore the ship's systems. It was nearly 0300, hour ship time when he finally returned to his quarters, exhausted but satisfied. The day had proven something important, not just to Zara but to himself. Humanity really was something special among the stars. He'd barely started to undress when his door chimed. Come in, he called, expecting Commander Walsh with a late-night report or Dr. Foster with medical updates. Instead, Zara stepped through the doorway. Marcus froze, his uniform jacket half off, suddenly very aware that his quarters were not designed for entertaining 7-foot-tall alien diplomats. The space that seemed perfectly adequate for a ship's captain now felt cramped and uncomfortably intimate. Guardian Zara, he managed, quickly pulling his jacket back on. Is everything all right? Do you need something? She stood just inside the doorway, her usual confident posture somehow different, less like a warrior surveying territory, more like Marcus couldn't quite define it. I have been thinking, she said quietly. About what happened today. About what I have learned during my time among your people. Marcus gestured toward the small seating area near his desk. Please sit. We can talk. Zara moved to the chair, specially reinforced to accommodate her size, but didn't sit. Instead, she turned to face him directly, those dark eyes more serious than he'd ever seen them. Among my people, she began, warriors form bonds with those who prove themselves in battle. Bonds of respect, of shared danger, of... She paused, clearly struggling with concepts that didn't translate easily, of trust that goes beyond words. Marcus nodded, not sure where this was leading, but sensing its importance. Today, I watched your crew risk everything for strangers. I watched you lead them into mortal danger, not for conquest or glory, but because it was right. I watched humans accomplish what my people would have deemed impossible. Her voice grew quieter, and I realized that I have never felt safer than I did standing on your bridge, surrounded by your warriors who fight not for themselves but for others. She took a step closer, and Marcus caught a hint of something in her scent. Not unpleasant, but definitely alien. Like copper and starlight, and something that reminded him of storm winds. Among my people, she continued, when a warrior recognizes another as truly worthy, there is a ritual, a ceremony of trust and protection. She paused, studying his face. It involves sharing sleeping spaces, demonstrating that you trust the other completely, with your life, with your dreams, with your most vulnerable moments. Marcus felt his heart rate increase as he began to understand what she was suggesting. Zara, I'm honored, but our species are more alike than different, she interrupted gently. I have studied your biology, your culture, your customs during my stay. Humans form pair bonds, protective relationships, deep trusts. You call it friendship, companionship, sometimes more. She tilted her head slightly. What would you call someone who has earned your complete trust? Someone you would follow into any danger, who you know would protect you against any threat. Marcus thought about it. What was Zara to him after everything they'd been through? She'd shared crucial intelligence that saved his crew's lives. She'd stood beside him during the most dangerous moment of his career. She'd shown him perspectives on humanity that he'd never considered before. I'd call them family, he said finally. Zara's expression softened, and for the first time since meeting her, Marcus saw something that looked almost vulnerable in those dark eyes. Yes, she said simply, family. In my language, we say Theskaran, one who shares the darkness so you do not face it alone. She moved closer again, now standing just arm's length away. At her full height, she towered over him, but somehow managed to make the size difference feel protective rather than intimidating. Marcus, she said, using his first name for the first time, I would be honored to be your Theskaran, to share the darkness with you. Her voice grew softer. Your sleeping place is large enough for two and my people. We do not sleep well alone after battle. Too many dreams of things that could have been lost. Marcus looked into those alien eyes and saw something he recognized despite the differences between their species. Loneliness, and the need for connection after facing mortal danger together. The ceremony, he asked carefully. What does it involve exactly? Sharing sleeping space. Remaining within protective distance throughout the night cycle. Demonstrating trust by maintaining vulnerability in each other's presence. She paused. Among my people, it is intimate but not romantic. It is about safety, about trust, about refusing to let fear or isolation claim victory after the danger has passed. Marcus considered this. They'd just faced something that could have killed them all. His adrenaline was still high, his nerves still on edge from the day's events. The thought of spending the night alone, replaying everything that could have gone wrong, held no appeal. More than that, the idea of Zara returning to her quarters to face her own post-battle thoughts alone seemed wrong. She'd trusted him enough to share knowledge that saved their lives. She'd stood beside him when everything hung in the balance. She'd called him family. All right, he said quietly, but I should warn you. Humans sometimes have nightmares after intense situations, and I'm not sure how well I'll sleep with someone else there. Zara's smile was gentle, almost maternal despite her fearsome appearance. Then we will keep each other safe from the darkness as Theskaran should. She moved toward his bed with that fluid grace that marked all her actions, then settled onto the mattress with surprising delicacy. The reinforced frame held her weight easily, and she arranged herself along one side, leaving space for him. The lights? She asked. Marcus dimmed them to the level he preferred for sleeping, then hesitated at the edge of the bed. This was definitely not covered in any first contact protocols he'd studied. Humans sleep in specific garments, he said awkwardly. As do Xenians. I have what I need. She gestured to her clothing, which had somehow shifted to become less formal, more like a comfortable sleeping outfit. Marcus retreated to his small bathroom to change into his sleep clothes, his mind racing. When he emerged, Zara had arranged herself comfortably on the far side of the bed, her silver hair unbraided and flowing over the pillow like liquid moonlight. He settled onto his side of the bed, acutely aware of her presence but trying not to make the situation more awkward than it already was. This is different, he admitted. All the best things are, Zara replied softly. Rest now, Marcus. I will watch for dangers while you sleep. We're on a starship in human space, Marcus pointed out. There aren't any dangers here. There are always dangers, Zara murmured, her voice growing drowsy. But tonight neither of us faces them alone. As Marcus drifted off to sleep, he found himself thinking that perhaps the real victory of the day wasn't defeating an ancient horror. It was the trust that had grown between two very different people who'd learned to see strength in each other's differences. He had no idea that this was just the beginning of something that would change both their species forever. The bond that defied worlds. Marcus woke to the soft sound of breathing that wasn't quite human. For a moment he lay still, remembering where he was and why. Zara had kept her word. She'd remained on her side of the bed throughout the night, and he'd slept better than he had in months. No nightmares about the battle, no restless replaying of dangerous moments, just deep, peaceful sleep. When he turned his head, he found her watching him with those dark eyes, fully alert despite the early hour. Good morning, Thessakaran, she said softly. Morning, Marcus replied, stretching carefully to avoid disturbing her space. Did you sleep at all? Xenians require less sleep than humans, and we sleep lighter. I dozed while maintaining awareness of our surroundings. She sat up gracefully, her silver hair catching the morning light from the viewport. You spoke in your sleep. Dreams of flying through stars. Better than nightmares about ancient machines trying to devour everything, Marcus said, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. Indeed. Zara stood and moved to the viewport, gazing out at the star field beyond. Marcus, we will reach Human Space Station Meridian Base in 2 days. Yes, end of the exchange program. Marcus felt an unexpected pang at the thought. You'll transfer to a Xenian vessel for the journey home. Zara was quiet for a long moment, her reflection ghost-like in the viewport's surface. I have been thinking about that, about what I will tell my people when I return. Marcus began his morning routine, but found himself listening intently to her words. The official report will describe human capabilities, technological assessments, cultural observations, she continued. But the truth is more complex. She turned from the viewport to face him. My people sent me here expecting me to evaluate whether humans were worthy allies or potential threats. They expected a warrior's report about a warrior culture. Her expression grew thoughtful. How do I explain that humans are neither? How do I tell them that your species has found a way to be strong without being cruel, brave without being reckless, protective without being possessive? Marcus paused in his grooming routine. Is that really how you see us? After yesterday? After everything I have witnessed? Zara moved closer, her voice growing more intense. Marcus, your people defeated an ancient horror that had destroyed Xenian worlds. You did it without sacrificing a single life, using tactics based on cooperation rather than individual heroism. You risked everything to save strangers, treated enemies with respect, and turned an impossible situation into victory through sheer refusal to accept defeat. She sat on the edge of his desk, her height bringing her closer to his eye level. Among my people, such achievements would make you legends. But here your crew treats it as simply another day's work completed successfully. Marcus finished washing and turned to face her fully. So what will you tell your people? The truth. That humanity represents something entirely new in the galaxy. A species that has learned to find strength in unity rather than division. Her voice grew quieter. And that I have found something among humans that I did not know I was searching for. What's that? Home, she said simply. Not a place, but a feeling. The sense of belonging somewhere, with people who understand what you value and why. Marcus felt something shift in his chest at her words. Over the past weeks, he'd grown to respect Zara's warrior's perspective, her insights into human nature, her quiet presence during dangerous moments. The thought of her leaving, of returning to a culture that might not appreciate what she'd learned here, bothered him more than he wanted to admit. "Zara," he said carefully, "what if you didn't have to choose between worlds?" She tilted her head, curious. The exchange program was successful, more successful than anyone anticipated. Both our governments are already discussing expanded cooperation, joint missions, cultural sharing programs. Marcus moved closer to her. What if there were opportunities for longer-term exchanges? Permanent positions for those who wanted to work with both species? You would want such a thing? She asked, and he heard something hopeful in her voice. "I can't imagine the Meridian without you anymore," Marcus admitted. "Yesterday proved that humans and Xenians can accomplish things together that neither could do alone. Your insights saved our lives. Our approaches gave you new perspectives on what strength can mean." Zara was quiet for a moment, then smiled. The first truly happy expression he'd seen from her. "There is something I have not told you about Xenian bonding customs," she said. "When warriors form the Sakaran bonds, they are not temporary. They are, how do humans say, for life." Marcus felt his breath catch. "For life? We do not bond lightly or frequently. When we recognize someone as truly worthy of complete trust, that recognition does not fade." She reached out and gently touched his hand with one clawed finger. "I did not ask to share sleeping space with you merely for comfort after battle, Marcus. I asked because I recognize you as someone I would choose to stand beside through any darkness." The implications of her words hit him like a physical blow. "You're saying—" "I am saying that if your people and mine create opportunities for long-term cooperation, I would be honored to serve alongside you. Not as a temporary exchange, but as a permanent partnership." Her dark eyes met his. "If you would have me." Marcus looked at this alien warrior who had become so much more than he'd ever expected. Advisor, friend, protector, partner in the most dangerous moments of his career. The thought of working with her permanently, of having her insights and strength available for whatever challenges they might face together, filled him with excitement and anticipation. "Zara," he said quietly, "I can't think of anyone I'd rather have watching my back." Her smile widened, showing those predatory teeth that no longer seemed threatening at all. "Then we are truly Theskaran," she said. "Partners in all darkness, allies in all light." As they prepared for the day ahead, Marcus found himself thinking about how much had changed since Zara first stepped aboard his ship. They'd started as strangers from different worlds, trying to understand each other's cultures. Now they were something unprecedented, a human-Xenian partnership based on mutual respect, shared danger, and the kind of trust that only came from facing the impossible together. But their greatest challenges were still ahead. Convincing two governments to support permanent cooperation programs would require all their diplomatic skills and more. And Marcus suspected that some people on both sides wouldn't be entirely comfortable with the bond they'd formed. Still, as he watched Zara prepare for another day of working alongside his crew, he felt confident they could overcome any obstacle. After all, they'd already proven that humans and Xenians could accomplish the impossible when they worked together. The future, whatever it held, would be something they'd face side by side. A new chapter for Two Worlds, 6 months later. Marcus stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Earth-Xenian Joint Station Unity. Watching construction, crews from both species worked together to complete the final sections of humanity's most ambitious diplomatic project. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, human efficiency merged with Xenian organic technology to create something that felt alive while remaining utterly functional. Gardens with plants from both worlds grew in carefully controlled environments. Laboratories where human and Xenian scientists worked side by side to unlock the secrets of devourer technology and dimensional physics. But most importantly, it was home to the first permanent mixed crews in galactic history. "The morning briefing is in 20 minutes, Zara said, approaching with the quiet grace that had become such a familiar part of his daily routine. "Admiral Harrison wants a full report on the Delta Sector patrol results." Marcus turned from the viewport, noting how naturally she'd adapted to the station environment. Her uniform now bore insignia from both species, Guardian of the 7th House and Commander in the Earth Alliance fleet, a rank specially created for the Joint Service Program. Any word from the Council of Houses? He asked. They remain skeptical of the Permanent Partnership Program. Some of my people still believe that close cooperation with humans will make us soft. Zara's expression grew amused. They have apparently not read the reports about our success rate against pirate incursions. It was true. The mixed human-Xenian crews had proven devastatingly effective against the various threats that plagued the border regions. Human adaptability and teamwork combined with Xenian, individual prowess and advanced technology, had created something entirely new in galactic warfare. Forces that could handle any challenge through cooperation rather than overwhelming firepower. And Earth Command? Still processing the philosophical implications of warriors who fight primarily to protect rather than conquer. Admiral Harrison mentioned that our methods are being studied at the War College as examples of asymmetric peacekeeping. Marcus chuckled. I'm not sure they understand what we've created here either. As they walked toward the command center, Marcus reflected on how much their partnership had evolved. What had begun as a cultural exchange had become something unprecedented. A true fusion of different approaches to strength, leadership, and cooperation. The sleeping arrangements that had started as a Xenian bonding ritual had evolved into something uniquely their own. They maintained separate quarters for official purposes, but most nights found them sharing space, working late into the evening on reports and planning, sessions that gradually shifted into quiet conversations about everything from tactical philosophy to personal dreams. It wasn't romantic in any conventional sense. Their species were too different for that, but it was intimate in ways that went beyond physical attraction. They'd learned to read each other's moods, to anticipate each other's thoughts in tactical situations, to provide exactly the kind of support the other needed during difficult moments. Marcus, Zara said as they entered the command center, there is something I want to discuss with you after the briefing. Good news or bad news? Potentially both. The Xenian Expeditionary Council has approved a proposal for expanded joint operations. They want to establish additional mixed crews for deep space exploration missions. Marcus felt excitement and apprehension in equal measure. That's wonderful. What's the potentially bad news? They want us to lead the program. Full autonomous authority, unlimited operational scope, responsibility for training the next generation of human-Xenian partnerships. Zara paused. It would mean leaving the station, taking command of a new vessel, and spending years in unexplored space with minimal contact with either of our homeworlds. Marcus stopped walking. They're offering us our own ship? More than that. They're offering us the chance to prove that what we've accomplished here can be replicated on a larger scale, to show both our species that cooperation isn't just a useful tactic, it's the foundation for something entirely new. The implications were staggering. Their own command, their own crew, complete freedom to explore the galaxy and face whatever challenges they might encounter. It was everything Marcus had ever dreamed of as a young officer, and more than he'd ever imagined possible. But it also meant leaving behind the relative safety and comfort of known space, taking responsibility for proving that human-Xenian cooperation could work under any circumstances, and potentially spending years away from both Earth and the Xenian homeworlds. What do you think? He asked. Zara's smile was answer enough, but she spoke anyway. I think that the greatest adventures always involve stepping into the unknown with someone you trust absolutely. She paused. I think that we have learned things together that neither of our species has discovered alone. And I think that the galaxy is vast enough to hold wonders that neither humans nor Xenians have yet imagined. Marcus looked around the command center, at the mixed crew of humans and Xenians working together with casual efficiency that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Lieutenant Rodriguez was coordinating with a Xenian navigator to plot courses through previously unexplored systems. Dr. Foster was sharing medical techniques with Xenian healers, combining human adaptability with their regenerative technologies. Chief Santos was working with Xenian engineers to develop hybrid technologies that outperformed anything either species had created independently. This was what they'd built together. Not just cooperation, but genuine partnership. The kind of unity that created strength without requiring anyone to sacrifice what made them unique. When do we leave? He asked. As soon as you say yes, Zara replied. Marcus thought about everything they'd accomplished together, everything they'd learned about their respective species, Everything they'd proven about the power of cooperation over conquest. Then he thought about the unexplored galaxy beyond known space, filled with challenges and wonders that would require all their combined strength and ingenuity to overcome. "All right," he said. "Let's go find out what else is possible when humans and Xenians work together." Zara's smile lit up her entire face. Together, Thessakaran. Always together. 3 weeks later, the newly commissioned exploration vessel Harmony departed from Unity Station under the joint command of Captain Marcus Chen and Guardian Commander Zara Thess. Their crew was half human, half Xenian, and completely dedicated to proving that the strength found in Unity could overcome any challenge the galaxy might present. Their mission: explore beyond the boundaries of known space, establish contact with new species, and demonstrate that cooperation was not just a useful tactic, but the foundation for a better future among the stars. As the Harmony engaged its hybrid drive systems and disappeared into the unknown, those who watched from the station knew they were witnessing something unprecedented. Not just the first joint deep space mission, but the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. Somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, two warriors from different worlds faced the future together, proving once again that the greatest strength comes not from standing alone, but from choosing to stand with others who share your dreams of what's possible. The galaxy was vast, but it was no longer lonely. Humanity had found partners among the stars, and together, they were ready for whatever wonders and challenges awaited them in the endless night. The age of true galactic cooperation had begun, and it started with a simple truth that both species had learned. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from fighting your enemies, but from learning to sleep peacefully beside your friends. End of story.